Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here. Today is a little bit of a different one. I say that quite regularly because I try to keep things a little bit different and interesting. But today I'm going to actually show you real designs that students of mine have worked on and show you how we can make them better. And so I've had their permission from all of them to share these with you, so I'm not dragging anyone through the dirt. What I'm doing is I want to show you real world designs that you can improve. And because I feel like design has such a power to communicate your business's message, design has such a power to communicate your business's professionalism. And so many times we just do things slightly wrong in a way that's not communicating, in a way that's not standing out, in a way that's not being readable, in a way that's not matching our brand, that is deterring from the graphics and is deterring from my business and is kind of putting all the time we've spent wasting in Canva to ruin. And so I want to show you through some real world designs and show you how to improve them. Some of them need a little bit of work, some of them barely need any work, and I wanted to show you a couple of tiny tweaks. Some of these I've pre-worked on and some of them less so. Some of them I've already done all the changes to, so I'm going to just step you through the changes that I made. It's going to be a whole lot of mishmash of stuff, but what I do know is it going to be super inspiring, super practical for you to be like, oh, I make that mistake all the time. I need to actually make sure I fix that, or I need to make sure I do that differently. And I know that it's going to inspire you. So let's get into the first one here. This is a design for a skincare company, and she sent me this design and I wanted to step you through the things that we can work on it. So pretty much this is going to be a poster in her clinic. And so what this poster needs to do, this is what we always need to ask ourselves. Whenever we first start a design, we need to ask, what is the purpose of this graphic and where is it being seen? A lot of the time we're doing social media posts, so that's a really quick answer. But for this one, it's going to be a poster in a clinic. So firstly, we need to make sure that it's printable. Secondly, we need to make sure that the text is readable and large enough to be read at a distance, because posters, like say if I'm sitting in a skin clinic, I'm going to be sitting down in my chair over here. The poster might be on a wall over there. So I need to make sure that it's readable enough from there, or at least the main point is readable enough that I can actually stand up and move closer to the poster. And we also need to make sure that it's branded. We need to make sure that it's communicating the right message. And so for us here for this message, it's getting a little bit lost. The key thing we want people to understand from this is that there are premium skin memberships available at a really great rate, and that these are actually the benefits of them, but it's not super clear that that's the case. So I'm going to redesign this poster to make sure not only is it readable, because right now the text on this white background isn't readable enough, and we also want to make sure that we're bringing in some more of her branding into this, and then we're also making sure that it's super clear that these are benefits that someone can get after they look at this poster. So let's dive in. Okay, firstly, her brand colors are orange and black and white. So I want to kind of bring some of those in. So firstly, I want to separate this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this text box. I'm going to delete the price because I want that to feel separate. I feel like this is more important than the price. The price is kind of like a secondary piece of information. So first I'm going to split those two up. And secondly, I'm going to bring this down. Okay, that really sits nicely in two lines. That's something to note. I have redesigned this before, so I am going to go to the solutions that I know that work, but I'm going to try to step you through the reasoning and why I'm doing those things. I'm going to go to elements first and just click on the shapes here and see what's available. If she had a brand shape she often used in here, I would just go straight to using that, but she doesn't. So what I'm going to do is just use just a random shape that I kind of find here that might suit. This is for Megan, by the way. Hey, Megan. And so if I go to, I think potentially this one, I want to show you a fun trick. What you can actually do with these really pointy shapes, which is definitely too pointy for a skin clinic. Skin clinics want to feel soft and relaxing and soft is just, I can't emphasize that enough. So I want to make it softer. What you can actually do is press the border style here, and you can put corner rounding and drag this little toggle down. So it becomes a little, look at those edges. They are far less pointy and scary. And so I'm just going to make that like this. I'm also going to use her brand colors. So I have her brand colors set up on a different page. So I'm just going to click on here and I can select one of her oranges. I'm going to pop that there like so. Actually, this one here, so it's a bit better, I think. Just a fun fact for you, oranges don't print amazing, so just keep that in mind if you are going to choose orange as your branding. I also want to play with fonts here because she has some really beautiful fonts for her brand. So I'm going to go to Premium Skin, and I'm going to see what that looks like in her brand font. If I go Premium Skin Wild Face, this one here. So you'll see here it's actually changed both all the pieces of text, not just one I highlighted. What you can do to make this not happen is you have it on a separate line. So I'm actually just going to show you what I mean. I'm going to put this on one line. I'm just going to press return. That way it pops it onto two lines for me. So I'm going to highlight Premium Skin, and now it's done that for me. So I'm going to bring that like so, make it a bit bigger, highlight this and make it a heck ton bigger, so 200. And that can actually be readable. So I think that this is readable enough. Some cursive fonts I'll be really careful around if I'm going to use it for a particular point, because I really want to make sure that this is readable. But I think it is. And so what I'm going to do here is center all of this text. But you'll see that this text is just too far away. So I'm actually going to grab the line spacing tool here and bring it so much closer. So you see that the skin is becoming closer. Bring it up again. Okay, probably about there. Not so that they're overlapping like too much. That's probably okay as well. And then I'm going to also bring this and make it capitals and make it smaller. Memberships is important, but it's not as important. So I actually think that memberships could actually do well on its own line as well. So I'm just going to copy that out and paste it over here. And again, just make it uppercase. And what we can actually do when we're working with a circle is go to effects here, press curve, and I can curve this to be actually around this circle. If I wanted to, I could make 2 of those, or I can make just 1, but I'm actually going to try doing 2. So I'm going to just duplicate that and curve it the other way, like so, and pop it in under here. So this is the stuff so I've already worked on this once for Megan, and she's given me permission to show you on this video as well. But this is the stuff that my students get support from me. So they've created something and they're like, it's not right, how do I fix it? I'll go in and either I'll give them some tweaks or I'll edit it for them. Or if they're in the Co+Creation Club, I definitely edit it for them. And I give them usually a video tutorial of exactly what I'm doing now, of stepping through the changes that I made and why they're important. So this is kind of working. I'm not thrilled with how big this memberships is. I think it's taking away a little bit from premium skin. So I'm actually just going to make it a little bit smaller and adjust the curve accordingly. So I want to make sure it feels like it's following the exact same curve of this circle. So I'm just going to actually delete that one and duplicate this one because it's already got the right sizing and shape that I wanted. Go back to effects, change my curve to being the opposite way, and pop that in there. I would have actually looked at the number if I was clever of the curve, so I can just make it in reverse, but that's good enough. All right, I might actually test out doing some different colors here, making this white, just because I think that'll make it feel a little bit more airy and open. I think this orange has enough contrast that works. All right, we're also now missing the price, so I'm actually going to make another one of these backgrounds and put the price on it. But again, this is starting to overwhelm this one, so I'm going to make this a lot smaller. I might make it in all caps, make it centered again, make this a lot smaller. I could even make $149 bigger than the per month, but I'm not going to bother with that right now, but that is definitely something that could be done. Make this line spacing a bit tighter together. And then I might make this a lot smaller, like so, and then make all of these a bit smaller. So to select both of those together, I just held shift and selected the next thing. But I'm not going to get you into I'm trying to teach you design principles right now rather than actual design, like teaching you the exact tutorials on how to do things. So if I'm moving a bit fast, I hope you don't mind. Otherwise, this tutorial would literally be 15 hours long. If you're wanting to know more, I actually teach this stuff of the how of what I'm doing as well as the strategy of what I'm doing inside my program, the Co+Creation Club. It's pretty much a live program where you can join me live for sessions like this where I work on your designs for you and with you. And I'm actually really inside your business together. So I'm going to move this around here. I'm going to see if there's any part of this image that I can drag and move around. Not really, because I would love more space over here so that I wasn't over putting a text box over the top of her head. But I'm going to move to that later. All right, next, oops, I just switched to the answer. Next up, I'm going to make this really obvious at its benefits. So I'm going to add in some text that says, what did I do? I think membership benefits. And I want to make this like so obvious. So I might try, actually I don't think that the white kind of suits. I usually think when people fade white out, it kind of feels really watery and not watery in a good way. Watery as in like washed out and yuck. Whereas if I try something like black, because there's already quite a lot of black in this image, I think that's going to help things be a lot clearer. What you would have to do though is print this and check if it works. Sometimes white text on a dark background doesn't go so well printed as it might display on a screen. I'm also going to separate out these points. They're starting to run into each other. So I'm literally going to put a return between each of these. I could do line spacing, but if I do line spacing, it's going to spread all of these out, and I don't want to spread all of them out. All right, and we also want to think about, is there a way that we can display things that's conceptually going to bring out our point? So say, for example, little checkboxes might say benefits. I'm going to actually just type in here into the elements section, check, and then maybe just select, and like any of these are fine. If you've got something that suits your branding more, like if you have a really chill brand or if you have a really structured brand, you choose different ones of these. I'm going to actually choose something like this one, maybe this one here. Can I change the colors? Yes. And then I can change this to being our orange, and then it stands out and looks really cute. So I'm going to grab this, I'm going to make it really small, zoom in a little bit for you. And I'm going to line this up next to my text box. I'm going to bring this out a little bit. Then I'm just going to hold down my Alt/Option key on Mac and then hold down Shift as well. And that's actually going to help me to duplicate these just by clicking and going to keep them lined up because I'm holding Shift. Wild, I know. All right, I want membership benefits to be really big because I really want people to see there's benefits to signing up for this, and maybe I'll make this orange as well. Amazing. All right, that's looking really good, but I've actually got lots of space here down the bottom, so I would probably move this down a little bit. Now, I know that I've started to cover up this guy's face, and so I could actually leave it there so it's a little bit that I could see more of him. I think that might work actually. What I would do as well is add in her logo here. I don't have that on file, so I'm not going to add it in, but I would probably add in their logo down the bottom here and maybe even a website address, just so that if people don't book right there at the clinic, they can just kind of have in the back of their head, oh, I can probably go to their website and book it. The only thing I'm not happy with now is that this is her head is overlapping on this little thing. So what I'm actually going to try to do, I'm going to detach the image from the background and copy it, and then undo what I just did by pressing Control Z. I'm going to grab this and press Edit Photo and Background Remover, and I want to see something. So if I'm going to grab her head and make her as big as she was, and I'm just going to lower the opacity then transparency so I can line her up perfectly. All right, and now I'm going to position her. I'll do it over this tab, Position Layers tab, so you can see what I'm doing, and drag her. Okay, I'm going to have to rejig a couple of things. I wanted it to be under everything, but I want these little doovalackies to be underneath her. So I'm actually just going to select them and then send them to being behind. And you can kind of see now that there's creating some depth here, but you can still see lots of the text. Like I could still read premium skin memberships, but it's not quite enough. So I'm just going to grab that again and maybe move it a little bit this way, maybe around there. And now I've got some really cool depth on the design as well, while still being readable. And so that's how I'm going to end this one for now. But you can kind of see the big difference that we made between the start and the end, just by thinking through what the message you wanted to share and making sure it's readable and really branded. All right, next up, I'm going to go to this one here. This was a carousel post one of my clients, Tara Winters, did. And she came to me in one of our calls and was like, Jacqui, this is good, but it's not perfect yet. And I wanted to share with you why. So Tara has done the Co+Creation Club with me. And so she nailed her branding. She nailed her look. This is a great design already. And she could have posted this and I would have been like, but there's a couple little things that I changed. I've already done these changes. So I'm just going to step you through those and step you through why I made those changes, because something isn't perfectly sitting and I want to show you why. So if I go to this version here, which is the version I have edited, you'll see first that I've made this heading a lot larger. So I've got this one compared to this one. The reason being is Instagram, often people are just scrolling past. So firstly, the bigger the text, the more likely they are to be able to read it. And secondly, it's so much easier to read inside your grid, which means that if someone ever goes to your grid and they're like, oh, what am I going to learn from this person? They could see that, oh, Tara's going to tell me about money. And this is something that I need to know about money. And therefore, they're more likely to have a look at that post, more likely to follow her. And then if you ever get put onto the, the page when you go to search on Instagram, it kind of recommends you a lot of posts. This post is going to be so easy to see what it's about and more likely to click on it because the text is really large. This isn't a hard and fast rule for every post that you do, but for some posts, if you don't have much text on that first page, because you've got a carousel full of incredible text, then don't feel like you need to have the text really small. And so the impact of this design is changed by just enlarging that text. So I think pretty much all I did was bring this a little bit higher to create some more, so it was really sitting on something. And then I created some more hierarchy in the text by bringing these different colors in here. So I think, hold on, I'll just show you what I did. I put money to be white so that it was clearest, but I put these ones in our other colors so that it was still really branded, but money really stood out a little bit. And then this background just made the design feel a bit more fuller and a bit less empty. So to show you the whole carousel, so this is a carousel post on Instagram. If I just scroll across here, these are really, really great, but something didn't feel as upmarket as she wanted it to feel. She's quite a premium brand, and this kind of feels really great. It feels like incredible. We're being nitpicky at the moment. When I want to show you some things that I fixed around this. So firstly, I actually made the text a little bit smaller. Not so much that it's not readable, I would never have gone to here. That's just a little bit too small to read on someone's phone screen, but here was okay. And I also left aligned it. Doing both of those things, if you've got a more premium brand, doing either of those things is going to help to lift the brand and elevate it to being more premium, more professional, and just a little bit more high end. The design that she had, I can't iterate this enough. Having centered design is not a bad thing, and this kind of text, I wouldn't have centered text for a whole paragraph. It just gets too hard to read, or paragraphs and paragraphs, but this little amount of text would have been fine. But making it a bit smaller and left aligning it really, really helps to edify the graphic and to kind of lift it up a little bit. For this one here, for example, as well, if I just switch between these two, what I also did was made the background a bit less opaque. So if I just bring it back a little bit for you. So we've got in here a watercolor texture. And so she had faded it down to about here, but it was kind of fighting with the text a little bit. There was too much going on in the background that the text was becoming hard to read. So I just faded that back down even more. It's a bit less textured, but the readability is key. So always prioritizing that readability was really, really important. All right, if I'm moving on, I pretty much just did that exact same thing of left aligning the text, making sure that it was more readable, and just tweaking some little things like that. I also did little things like gratitude here is the most important part of this post, of this slide. So I wanted to make sure that I highlighted that. So I just made gratitude a different color. You could have highlighted by making it bolder. You could highlight it by putting a little box behind it. Anything to kind of make it just kind of grab your attention a little bit and think, oh, gratitude. Yeah, I want to read about that, and just redraw people into wanting to read that graphic. Amazing. So we kind of just flick through those things. You can kind of see with this one as well. I thought this point was really great. You are not the decider of the value. You are the decider of the value, not the price tag. So I encouraged her to bring that out and put that into a box by itself. So that just really stood out on its own. And so, yeah, that was pretty much most of the changes we made. I'll just show you the final slide as well. I really think adding, as a personal brand, adding in images of you can be really helpful because it just helps to bring people back to the trust in you and your face and getting to know you. So for that last slide, I wanted to bring back in a picture of her, of Tara, just so that it felt like more personable, and kind of just reiterated her as a thought leader rather than this is just a random post from a random person on Instagram. This is Tara, and you better be following her if you want this wisdom. And so that was kind of how that worked. Hope you found that helpful. All right, the next one I want to show you is another one that I've also worked on already, but it's a far more simpler, just a plain Instagram post. Bex came to me and she's like, what's wrong with this post? She's got a really, really strong brand. I was trying to work out what the difference was and what was missing for her. And you see here, the first thing in this is there's not as much hierarchy. That this whole paragraph, if I was just to see this whole paragraph is just saying the one thing, like there's nothing that's drawing me into it. There's nothing that's calling it out. It's kind of just reads like a whole paragraph. I'm like, if anything, interview is standing out because it's kind of on its own. And so for her, I encouraged her and I edited this for her and I said, what was the most important thing to stand out? And it's really a red flag, and the interview is important as well. So I really want people to note red flag, but right now it's getting lost. So how can we fix that? So I'm going to show you the edited version for you. Firstly, I kind of separated out the text a little bit and made it a little bit easier to read. I kind of brought this out a smidgen and kind of had things more of a couple of lines. And I also lowered the colors a little bit. I felt like they were a little bit, sometimes colors can be a little bit like jarring or a little bit, they feel like they're moving a little bit. And Bex wasn't quite at this point, but it was to the point where I wanted to just soften things down a little bit. Her brand isn't one that needs to be like, whoa, it just needs to be bright and encouraging, but rather than being, whoa. So I kind of just lowered the colors a little bit. I want you to see what I did. I'm going to copy this into the other design for you so you can see it easier. I'm going to flicker between them. Just having a look briefly between that and that. It's still really bold, but it's just a little bit less in your face and a little bit more calm and professional, which is the vibe that Beck needs to do. So I brought that border in a little bit thicker to kind of make it more of a statement. And then I separate out the text a little bit, soften the colors a little bit, which also made her kind of less, like the yellow and the blue was quite jarring, made that more kind of soft and professional. And then just circled red flags. So her branding has a lot of like little doodles and illustrations in it. So working with that, I added in a little circle. I just searched this as a Canva element and circled the red flag. You'll also notice that I've put that on the one line together. So before I edited this, the design was like this, where red and flag were on separate lines. We want to try to make sure that anything really key to our message is on the same line if possible. It's not always possible, but for me, all I needed to do was just jig the text box a little bit and red flag became on the one line. And that just meant that it's easier to read as one kind of idea. So I put red flag in a circle, and I also felt like this was a little bit empty. So I decided let's add in some fun imagery, and I just found another doodle illustration on Canva of a flag to back that up. So I hope that helps for you. All right, the one I want to look at next is this one here. I'm going to be honest with you, I have not worked on this one yet. Sarah has been in my program for a long time, and we've done a lot of work back and forth. So she's actually doing a really great job with all of our graphics now. So I actually have no idea how I'm going to fix these. This one here is one that I've already done in the past. So she's kind of got that nailed. And because we've worked on so many graphics together, she's able to now create things and do things first time herself really great. So I'm actually not sure what changes I'm going to make to this, but I wanted to step you through my thought process as one of our last works together. All right, so I'm going to grab this. Firstly, I don't like there's more space down the bottom here as there is here, and then a weird space here. So I'm going to see if I can just fiddle with that a little bit. So I'm going to just, also, I don't love how her head is cut off so much. I don't mind having a bit of head cut off, but I think it would be better if I zoom out a little bit. if she was down just a smidgen more so I could see all of her forehead. All right, now I'm going to see if I can bring this down. Yeah, even there is better. It's now underlapping this text box with episode 7, which makes it feel a little bit more layered and less like plonk, plonk, plonk. And it also has similar spacing between these edges. We could also make it go like even more so, like this, or like even about there even. And I think that's feeling really great. To make sure I've got this perfect, I'm actually going to click my mouse here and click and drag to select all of those parts. Press position and press center. And you'll see that it's just made sure everything is perfect. If I just undo that, you'll see that it wasn't perfectly centered. This episode marker wasn't perfectly centered, and these boxes weren't centered within each other. So just by selecting all of those and pressing center, it's going to make sure that it's perfect. I'm also going to select it and drag it, and you'll see that it's that pink line that came up just then. That's Canva letting me know that now this is perfectly centered on the design as a whole, and previously it wasn't. So just doing little tweaks like that just help your designs to look a bit more professional and a bit more thought through and considered, and like a designer's worked on them. All right, next I want to, so what she has done really great here is 1,000 things. It is wildly branded. She's done a great job of bringing out a keyword here, like I circled red flag and like I brought out money in the previous designs. Having content strategy in her different font is helping that to stand out a little bit more and to stand out from the rest of the text. You can imagine if it was just a full paragraph of this blue text, it'd be okay, but it's less obvious. I'm actually going to just bring this text a little bit closer together in its line spacing. You can see it's plenty of room there. If I put it up here, that's too close. Here is too close, but just bringing it to about there is a lot nicer. Build trust and increase your conversion rates with this content strategy. I'm actually going to maybe highlight this and maybe bold conversion rates, because I also want that to kind of begin to stand out. If I wanted to, I could also do increase to have increased conversion rates, and then it's with this content strategy. So it's really helping that when someone is scrolling their feed, if they see this pop up, they're going to see increased conversion rates. Oh, that's something I'm interested in. Oh, with this content strategy, great. This looks great down the bottom here. There's really not too much more I would change on this. The only thing we could play with potentially is this. All right, I'm going to make this a bit smaller, like so. And I'm going to bring episode 27 up to where it was. And then that just means I've got some more space for this text here to stand out. So I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. And that just means that we still see a great picture of Sarah, but this message is now standing out a lot clearer, which is going to be now clearer from when it's been viewed on her Instagram grid, and also clearer when someone is scrolling. So I think I'm happy with that now. Good job, Sarah. And this is the next one she wanted me to look at. Again, not a heap I'm going to change for this because she's already really thought this through. But what I might do is a couple of things. I'm going to just unlock this section here. I'm going to bring this across to have more space for the text, because there's a Bible in the background here, great, but there's this little part here. If I just show you the full graphic, there's a full image here, but this part of the graphic, the little journal here, isn't as needed. So I'm actually not going to be afraid to cover that up even more so, like that. So I still see lots of the image, but I've got more space for my text now. I also want to, this is just plain black text. I'm actually going to consider making this her orange color, because this is not important information. Like rarely on Instagram is someone going to say, oh, I'm going to remember this URL and go and paste that into my my browser. It's not really that important. It's good. It's fine to be there, but it doesn't need to be in black. Black is going to help it stand out more, but now I've made it more branded by making it orange, and also just stand out a little bit less so that these guys are the hero. All right, so I'm going to bring this down. Again, she's brought out some text here, which is really great. But what she hasn't done is partner doesn't have any context in this bigness. So what I'm actually going to do is get with God and add that with partner. I'm going to make this uncapitals. I'm going to keep God capitals. And also take away the space here. Like you can tell those are two words, but having the space there just made it too wide. I'm going to bring that together and lay that underneath there. Grab both of these together and make them a bit smaller. And now it's like partner with God is really obvious, which is what's going to attract her particular audience, which is why I've done that. I'm going to make this line spacing a bit smaller here. Pop that there. Just brought everything together a little bit so it feels a bit tighter and a bit more like a succinct thought rather than just a separate kind of thought laid out down the page. So I'm just going to highlight this, highlight this, highlight this, highlight this. Go to position, press center, make sure it's perfectly centered. Then I'm just going to drag it around and make sure it's really sitting visually center within this piece of paper. I can't do it perfectly centered because it's going to capture this shadow as well, which isn't perfectly centered. I'm not going to go into that point. I'm also going to grab this black text and see if I can make it her dark green. Yeah, see, that's making it more branded, but also helping it to just kind of look a bit more softer. I'm also going to see, I think in your business needs to be on one line. I think that makes more sense. It kind of pulls the width of this text to kind of make it less stark, that it's different to, It's hard to explain why sometimes. I won't bother because I want to finish this video up, so I'm not holding you hostage for ages. Right, now that I've moved all this around, I also need to move around our episode number little boxy thing. So I'm just going to visually center that like so. I also want to see, I wouldn't mind trialing eyedropping the color for the episode instead of being white to being the same color as this background, to kind of more feel like this is an actual stamp and that it's kind of cut out of the stamp rather than text on top of the stamp, if that makes sense. But I think that works really well. Again, if I wanted this to be really standing out, I'd probably keep it white because I want it to stand out, and white on this color will stand out more than the cream, but it's not an important piece of information. This is our important piece of information, which is why I've made it bigger. I'm going to grab this and bring it down, bring it across a smidgen this way. I forgot to grab that. All right. I'm really happy with that. I kind of wish I kept the original for you, but hopefully you understand what I've done there. Those are some really great ways and some really small tweaks and tips that you can change to make to your graphics. All of these graphics were already really great because they're my students that they've already been learning from me, and they've already worked out their branding. They've already created really great stuff and they've learned design principles. But sometimes you just need a designer to remind you of, actually, if you tweak this, it's going to communicate so much better. Or if you tweak this, it's actually going to stop the scroll with people who want to read your content. Or if you tweak this, it's going to look so much more professional. And so if you're wanting some help with that, I would love to help you. I have a program that's called the Co+Creation Club. So pretty much it's a 10-week program where you can work with me in a really small group environment where I get to know your brand and your business, and I help you to create the perfect visual brand for your business. And then I help you actually learn the skills, just some of what I've taught today, and actually take you through it a lot slower and a lot more intricately so that you can learn how to create your own incredible brand and graphics in a way that actually stands out, in a way that actually communicates. You're not just using random Canva templates and you don't understand how to arrange text or how to apply your branding, or why you've got this great color palette, but why does it never look good in your branding? I want to teach you those things and teach you how to do it really, really well. And so the doors to the Co+Creation Club are open right now, and I would love to have you in it. So just head to DIY-designmybiz.com/club. This is the final time I'll be running it for 2023. So don't delay. If you're ready to take ownership of your brand, if you're ready to have a professional brand that draws in your audience, if you're ready to enjoy the process of designing and have Canva actually make sense to you, this is the program for you. It means that you can now create the graphics for the life of your business if you want to. It's a quarter of the cost of actually hiring a designer to do all these graphics for you. And it's a program where I'm going to inspire you, equip you, and motivate you and empower you to create everything that you need for your business and your brand. So I hope that you'll consider joining me. Doors are closing very soon, so please don't delay. There are limited places, so it could already be closed by the time you actually see this video. So please make sure you jump in. There are limited places because it's a very in-person, a very intentional program where I'm actually getting to know your business, and I only have the capacity for so many. So thank you for joining me for this video. Don't forget to hit that like button if you found this helpful. Let me know in the comments which little tip that I did that kind of blew your mind a little bit that you really want to make sure that you start implementing into your own business. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button too, so you can stay up to date with any of the information and tutorials and offers and tips and branding and insights that I'm sharing with you every single week. All right, see ya.